Please welcome a patient, a young man who went through an operation in 2007 that changed his life, Brandon Mariachi. Brandon, come on down.
Thank you. It truly is an honor to get a chance to tell my story for such a great cause. I was diagnosed with epilepsy as a young child. My type of seizures can best be described as a petit mal seizure where my entire body would tense up and shift to the left along with my head, most times leaving me falling on the ground. They would last about 10 to 15 seconds at a time. During them I was non-responsive but would know what was going on around me. I would get a warning sign called an aura that was mainly a type of tunnel vision a few seconds before the seizure would occur. It was like being a prisoner in my own body for that period of time. There was nothing I could do to stop them from coming. I've been on multiple medications in my life, including a vagus nerve stimulator that was implanted in my chest. Nothing was strong enough to control the seizures. As I got older, the seizures happened more often and were sometimes more severe. I suffered one grand mal seizure when I was in my teens, where I fell out of bed and also down a flight of stairs. By the time I was in my 20s, I was having anywhere from 7 to 12 petit mal seizures a night, waking up each and every time. I would also have anywhere from 5 to 10 during the day. For me, my life was a constant battle. I would constantly walk into rooms, and the first thing I would look for was a place to hide. Bedrooms, bathrooms, and even closets were places I would go to hide myself for a short time until the seizure would pass. I eventually got pretty good at hiding them from people. At one point in my life, I had my seizures pretty much down to a schedule throughout the day. I would know when and where I needed to be to hide and get away from everybody. But I couldn't do this alone. My family and friends played a huge part in keeping my seizures a secret from everyone. They would cause distractions so others wouldn't see me having one, or just hide me away from everybody. However, I've had seizures in front of hundreds of people that didn't know I had this, and I can only imagine what they had to go through. Epilepsy wasn't just a burden on me, but also the people that I was with. I've had my license taken away twice in my life. I had to ask for rides from family just like I was a young teenager again. There are so many times that I fell into people and things that I can't even remember them all, except one in particular. I was working at a hockey store and had a seizure and fell into a rack of hockey sticks in front of about 20 or 30 people. I had had enough. I started seeing Dr. Valeriano when I was in my late teens, and right from the start, it was more like he was one of my friends rather than my doctor. He knew the type of burden this was causing on me, and one day mentioned the possibility of having brain surgery to help with the seizures, and maybe even get rid of them completely. I thought about this procedure for a while and questioned if I wanted to go through with it or not. But after that day at the hockey store, I had my answer. I went home and told my family that I wanted to go through with it, and we called Dr. Valeriano to talk it over and set something up. This is when I met the other person who would eventually save my life, Dr. Wilberger. They told me what all the surgery entailed and how long it would take, and that it wasn't guaranteed to work. I didn't care. I was willing to do anything not to have to live like this anymore. I went into the hospital in the middle of November of 2007 to have the procedure done. The first surgery would be the placement of a grid of electrodes on my brain. The doctors removed the top right part of my skull and set the grid on. I would be like this for about 4 days. At times, the pain was unbearable, even bringing me to tears. But I knew that this is what I wanted, and I was determined to get through any part of it. I still was not sleeping at night in the hospital and would have the seizures with the grid on my brain. After the 4 days passed, they hooked up the grid that had electrodes on it to a machine and induced a seizure to find out where they were coming from. After they did so, there was a problem. The point that was causing the seizures was less than an inch away from where the left side of my body's motor skills were controlled in my brain. The doctors told me and my family that there was around a 60% chance that I could lose the use of the left side of my body. I didn't care. I would rather live the rest of my life in a wheelchair than go through what I was going through. The day after, I went into surgery, and Dr. Wilberger removed a 1-inch piece of my brain where tissue hadn't developed. That night in ICU, I was afraid to sleep. I didn't want to know that the surgery didn't work. I tried to stay up as long as possible, but eventually went to sleep. That night was the first night in about 15 years that I slept without being woken up by a seizure. To this day, I remain 100% seizure-free. My wife and I take trips, places, and go out with friends all the time. I'm able to do the things I love again, and I know that this wouldn't have been possible without this procedure. I'd like to say thank you to my mom, dad, family, friends, and my wife for helping me throughout all of this. I really can't begin to put into words what Dr. Valeriano, his nurse Carol, Dr. Wilberger, and his nurse Marie mean to me. They are all nothing short of heroes to me. They saved my life. I'd also like to thank everyone for coming tonight to support epilepsy patients and for making stories like mine possible. Thank you very much.